Greetings to you, friends, family, and other fellow travelers of the earthly realm. My name is Justin Otto, and this is Dharma Junkie. Now, it's been about 9 months or so since I put out an episode of Dharma Junkie, and I've got my reasons for that. The main reason would be that I relapsed on heroin in January of this year. But before I relapsed, I recorded a bunch of episodes in December of 2020 and the beginning of January 2021, which just sat on my computer and I didn't do anything with because I'm an asshole, but mostly because I didn't feel it was right to put out an addiction recovery podcast, a Dharma podcast, when I'm in active addiction. It just didn't seem fucking right, so I didn't do it. And if you have a problem with that, then that's obviously your problem. But I had my own problems, which I had to take care of. And I did. And I'm doing much better now. Thank you very much. But on this episode, my guest is Kat Kim. Kat is a spiritual teacher, leadership coach, and the founder of the School of the Divine Confidence, which is an online school that offers spiritual training and confidence coaching to rising female leaders and change makers across the world. She's a recovering crack addict and a convicted drug offender. And she's got a really crazy story. It's absolutely fucking bananas. You'll just have to listen to it. The dates are going to seem a little off. Like I said, this was recorded in December 11th, actually. Without further ado, I guess here's Kat Kim. And thank you for listening to what amounts to season 2 of fucking Dharma Junkie. So, buckle up, strap in, and welcome the fuck aboard.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. Using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Kat Kim, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? So nice to be here.
Very nice to have you. I'm doing very well. Very well.
Yeah.
Worked all day and I'm off now and I'm doing this, and this is what I actually like doing. So I'm in a much better mood now.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, the last time that we emailed each other, I was kind of in a rush. I was like, okay, I got to go because I'm about to go onto a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
That's right. How did that go?
Oh, fuck, man. It got canceled.
You're kidding me.
No. I can't even tell you how frustrated I was. So you've been on Vipassana retreats?
No. Remember when we were exchanging emails, I told you that I scheduled one for this year. It was going to be the first one. Right. And then it got canceled because of COVID and everything. So.
Oh my God. Okay. So that was your first one?
Yeah. I'm hoping to go on one. There's one, it's not a Vipassana retreat, but it's to a Wild Heart Meditation Center in Nashville. They're doing a silent retreat in May around.
How long is it?
Memorial Day. It's a week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's not quite 10 days, but it's a week. So
yeah. Okay. So I was scheduled to go in March in 2020. And then it got canceled due to COVID. And then, we started opening up a little bit. And then they were like, okay, we're going to do our first one after COVID. This is November. And I was like, I'm in. And I was so excited. It's hard because it's 10 days off completely. And you have no access to the internet, nothing. So you're completely off the grid. So scheduling around those 10 days is not an easy task, especially when you run a business. And, I mobilized my team. I had everything set, ready to go. 10 days, I'm off. I'm going to get away from this bullshit. I'm going to relax. It's really hard. It's not like you go there and you're like,
oh yeah,
it's not even anything like that. But I was just really, really prepared to go and shut everything down. And, it's been intense, 2020, election, COVID, all of those things. And I do this retreat, when I'm able to, if I could go twice a year, that's amazing. But again, it's really hard to do that. So at any rate, I was so excited. I was so happy to go. And I was all ready to unpack. I was supposed to leave on Thursday. Then I got an email on Wednesday night saying that they couldn't continue because of the partial shutdown in Washington State. So I couldn't go.
Sucks, man. Nah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the next one you'll be able to go to.
Yeah. I ended up doing my own kind of personal retreat. I shut down social media, the phone. I fasted, stopped eating for a few days, and it was good. But I'm definitely looking forward to like getting back into like somewhat of a normal life. Come on.
Right. Where exactly are you located at?
Washington.
You're in Washington?
Yeah, Washington State, Seattle.
It's still pretty shut down up there, huh? Yeah.
We were shut down, then we opened up, and then like right before I was supposed to go on my retreat, like literally the week before, we did another partial shutdown. So yeah, we're in partial shutdown. What about you guys?
Oh, we're Wild West over here. It's Florida. We're wide open.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, no, like total.
How are the COVID rates over there?
I mean, I don't know, because I'll be honest, I really don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, got it.
Like I really, the mind has the tendency to gravitate towards, what you
focus on.
So I just don't focus on that.
Yeah. Nice.
I go to work and I go home and I do this, and that's pretty much. I go to the gym and that's it.
That's cool. That's
I live in my own little bubble.
Yeah.
which can be good and bad, but
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, I don't think it's any worse than anywhere else, but like I said, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Here locally, I mean, you other than people wearing masks and such, you wouldn't know anything was going on.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
that's amazing.
Literally, it's just business as usual.
Really? Wow.
I mean, things are only open at like certain capacities and things like that. But as far as like actual commerce, like there's pretty much everything's just open up now. So.
Wow. That's amazing. Over here, well, I've always worked from home. I've worked from home for myself for many years. So nothing's really changed for me on a day-to-day level. Like the day-to-day is the same for me. So I'm not really impacted by it like a lot of people are, unfortunately, for other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's
anyway,
good.
Yeah.
Not for them, obviously, but
yeah, exactly.
It's good you have that background of working from home already. So you were kind of essentially set up for this, and
Yeah, totally.
I'm trying to get to the point where I'm working from home, but it's still a it's a slow climb.
Yeah.
Slow climb.
Work in progress. Totally.
Yeah. Everything is right.
Yeah.
Even spiritual practice, which is
oh my God, seriously. Exactly.
Yeah, man. So I hate to hear that about your retreat. Like I know how excited I was to be going on one, and then when they told me it was canceled, I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'm such a bummer. And I was like, it's twice for you. That's twice.
Twice. Fucking twice. But the thing is what they teach you. The irony of this is that, if you are a serious practitioner of Vipassana meditation, the essence of what they teach you is to be able to observe all of the things that are coming up in life and to not react, not to have a bad reaction or not even to have a good reaction.
Right. Just acceptance of the situation as it is.
Yep. As it is, watching it come and watching it go, which is essentially what you do for 10 days, which is what I would have been doing, is sitting for anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a day for 10 days and just watching my sensations come up and watching them go, watching my feelings come up and watching them go as I'm sitting there in total silence. It's really hard.
Oh, no.
Because your body starts to hurt, like you start to get pain, horrible pain. And the whole practice is you observe.
Too.
Yeah. You really just observe the nature of sensations arising and then falling. That's really the thing of it. It's not even about changing it. It's not about judging the feeling or the sensation. It's just about just watching it come and go.
Well, that's meditation in general.
Essentially. Yeah.
See, and it's funny to me because a lot of people have that misconception about meditation. They think when you meditate, you just try to blank your mind out and you don't think. You're in just complete bliss state. And it's like, nah, that's not what it is at all. This is like a deep investigation of thought. That shit is awful at times. Like it's horrible. It's not happy fun time. Like,
no, it's horrible. cool. I remember when the first time I went there, it was like day 7. And it's like, it's 10 days for a purpose, because you hit a wall and then you have to break through it. Something happens in 10 days. And I remember like the first time, it was my 7th day, and I finally started to feel like the sensation of just like the vibrations of my body. I could feel the mass of my body breaking apart. I could feel like the quantum, the energy moving up and down. And I was like in total awe. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is great. And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is the stupidest thing I've ever done. Why am I sitting here for a week?
Idiot person ended up.
Yeah. And then I was like, who are all these people and why are they doing it? It's like self-masochism. It really is. It's very painful.
Self-flagellation for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully things will kind of level out soon, and we'll all be able to go on our Vipassana retreats.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you want to tell everybody a little about yourself and what it is that you actually do?
Yeah. So, I'm a former crack addict and drug dealer facing 3 years in state prison, turned spiritual teacher and leadership coach. I founded a school called the School of Divine Confidence, where I provide spiritual training and confidence coaching to rising women leaders, spiritual seekers, and change makers.
Awesome. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah. I've been coaching for over 10 years. So I started coaching in 2007. That's when I started my journey in training to be a coach. And the coaching industry now has blown up. But when I first started, there was nobody doing this. I'm like ancient. I'm ancient, when it comes to
You're like
this.
an OG coach.
I am. And I'm really starting to see that now. I'm starting to see these young girls, like these young women, 20s and 30s coming. I'm like, wow, I'm like way older than you.
Oh man, it's funny. One of my past guests and a friend of mine, Gary Cocholillo, we have a kind of a running joke, because if you're looking for podcast guests, be sure that like a million life coaches are going to come out of the woodwork. So we'll go on the podcasting groups on Facebook and be like, are there any life coaches in there? And it's like just 50, like 70,000. Jeez.
Yeah.
So like, how long have you been in recovery?
Well, I think at 18, 19 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if I'm doing the math right. I don't count anymore. I went to jail. I got arrested for, do you want to hear the story of how this all
Absolutely.
happened?
Yeah, for sure. Story. That's why I asked.
So my story began really when I was young. When I was 6 or 7 years old, my mom started feeding me diet pills. I was just barely diet pills. Like I was barely tall enough to look over the kitchen counter. And I remember just every day we were in the kitchen, and I'm like, I have my hands on the kitchen counter looking up at her, and every day she'd be at the cutting board, and she's taking these pills and she's cutting them and she's feeding them to me. And one day I asked her, why are you cutting them? And she said, well, these are diet pills, and these are for adults, and you're just a child, so you don't need the whole thing. We can just cut it in half, and you just need to eat a little bit of it. So at that age, it's like we're sponges. We're just sponges for whatever's going on in the environment.
Yeah.
I didn't have I wasn't mentally developed enough at that time to question what, the morality of this.
No, not at 6 years old. I mean, those are the formative years, that's
exactly.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I just accepted it. I just accepted that there was something wrong with me, and that I needed to be fixed, and that I needed something outside of me in order to fix what was wrong with me.
Right.
And so thus began a lifelong struggle of low self-confidence, horrible body image, low self-confidence, no self-worth, right? And I also grew up in a really... What's that?
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, I know, right? And, it's crazy because I started feeling all of this by the time I was in second grade.
Oh, yeah.
That was just like my identity and what I became familiar with and all I knew for years and years, for decades to come. I grew up in a really emotionally and physically abusive environment as well. So I started rebelling at a really young age, smoking and drinking at 13, doing hardcore drugs at 16, and I started dealing cocaine when I was 18, and I was transporting it from Washington State to California. Why are you laughing?
Rapid progression.
Yeah, there's like
So I started drinking at this and smoking at 13, and then by 18, I'm trafficking drugs. Like, whoa,
pretty much.
Pump the brakes, man.
I like to move fast. I'm a very quick learner. And I started dealing cocaine. I was transporting it from Washington State to California on the plane. Okay. One day I got caught. I was handcuffed, put behind bars in Oakland, California, of all places. At that time, Oakland was notorious for its high rates of homicides.
I was about to say, that's a lovely place to go to jail at.
That's where I was, like smack dab in the middle of all that shit. And, you'd think this was my wake-up call. But it wasn't, and like suddenly I'm facing 3 years in state prison. I'm in Oakland, county jail. I'm like, no one will pick up their phone. I called my friend. She said, okay, I'm going to get you out of jail, and never heard from her ever again. It's like, you'd think it was like, okay, I need to pull my shit together and wake up, but I didn't. Right. I was like, you know what? I'm in Oakland. I'm going to try to make some drug deals while I'm here. I was like, I'm going to network the shit out of this. I'm going to like make the most out of this situation.
The life hands.
I tried to make drug deals while I was there. I was absolutely fearless, but it wasn't the type of fearlessness that came from courage. It was like the type of fearlessness that came from having no regard for my life. Absolutely. I didn't care what happened to me, my life, my future, or my body. So, now I'm facing 3 years in state prison. They gave me an option: plead guilty, go to rehab, and then you don't have to go to trial. And that's just the easiest way to go. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I'm guilty. Like, you found me with the drugs. So I went to rehab and I cleaned up the drugs. But this feeling of not being good enough, not being worthy, not being loved, and being ugly as fuck, like that it stayed with me for years and years and years. And I started getting involved in really toxic, abusive relationships with men. And it wasn't even until many years after jail, I was like so depressed. I couldn't like move my body when I was in bed. Like there was this heavy energy pushing me down. Yeah. And I couldn't even lift my arms up. And somehow, like one day I managed to be like walking down the hallway to my apartment elevator door. And there's this big mirror, this like ceiling to wall, a floor to ceiling mirror that hung on the wall across the elevator door. And I'm like looking down, and I look up, I glanced up, and I saw a reflection of someone in the mirror. She's standing there. And when I looked at her, I just was like, I was like, wow, she looks horrible. Her hair was unkempt. She was overweight. Her hair, like, her face was all swollen. She was wearing big baggy clothes. And even while I was just wallowing in my own toxicity at that time, even though I was so depressed and I hated my life, I just saw her and I thought, oh my God, at least I'm not that bad. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. There was nobody else. Right. There was nobody else in that hallway.
That is
no one. Yeah. That is me. I had become so disconnected with the woman that I wanted to be and who I was being in life that I didn't even recognize myself when I saw myself in the mirror. That was my wake-up call, finally, of all things. And that's when I decided I would do whatever it takes to become the woman that I wanted to be. I wanted to be beautiful. I wanted to be powerful. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to transform lives, all the good things, Yeah. And so I just began studying everything under the sun around transformation. I became obsessed. And it started with this whole physical transformation. I became a certified image consultant. So I was like, I'm going to know how to dress myself. I'm going to understand my body type and how to do your hair and makeup, Right. So I learned how to accentuate the best parts of me and how to do it for for other women too. And then I became a certified, nationally certified personal trainer. So I began to understand like what the body goes through to undergo transformation. So I studied nutrition, biology, physiology, all those things. I lost a bunch of weight. And then I began studying like I said, I started life coaching training, and it went for 3 years where I began to study like how the mind, how your thoughts are connected to your behaviors and your results. And this quest for transformation on the outside, interestingly, just kept on taking me deeper and deeper and deeper inside into the world of spirituality, quantum physics, energy. I eventually became a licensed spiritual practitioner. I have one foot in the door, I can't even believe it, of, ministerial, going down the ministerial path, because I eventually found this source of spirit, love, power, abundance, joy, and that source comes from God, our creator, and we have that inside of us, each and every one of us. And so now I've dedicated my life and my career to helping people, move through very similar transformations. And that's what I do now. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. What a very interesting story. That's
it's colorful.
Oh, absolutely. Do you have any like particular spiritual path that you follow, or?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed spiritual practitioner under the Science of Mind philosophy of thought. I don't know have you heard of Science of Mind?
No.
Do you know Reverend Michael Beckwith by any chance?
I think I've heard the name before, but I'm not exactly familiar with it.
Yeah, it's called New Thought, and it gets New Thought, the word, it kind of gets thrown in with New Age, and it gets mixed up a little bit. But New Thought really is, it's like a philosophy of thought that combines the teachings of science and the ancient teachings, the ancient wisdom throughout all of the ages and religion. It ties it all together with philosophy, and it really talks about the golden thread in all of the teachings, which is about the oneness of who we are. Right. And it began as not as a religion, but it's actually been recognized now as a religion just within the last few years. And it's what brought me to God or spirit, made me understand God and spirit in a different way, that made me realize that God is not a white man in heaven, but it's, God is an energy for me. God is an experience. And it's just opened up a lot for me. And it's been very transformational. And I also came to a point where I realized that much of what we learn in spirituality, especially in the Western world, is really, really, really tied in with the consumer culture and extractive capitalism. Yeah. And then I went on this rabbit hole. Like, what the fuck am I learning here? What am I doing? What is all this stuff? And then I ended up writing a big essay about this around the marriage between consumerism and spirituality, and essentially how it trains us to be better consumers.
Oh, that's interesting. I'd like to read that sometime.
Yeah.
Sure, it's very good. So, yeah. What got you into Vipassana meditation?
What they say in Vipassana, and if you ever get the chance to go, Goenka is the teacher, right. And he will say that anyone who has never been on a Vipassana meditation retreat, but hears about it and is instantly intrigued or is very curious about it, he says that in a past life that we have been Vipassana meditators. So basically you were in a past life, and apparently I was as well. But I was just something about the 10 days, and I'm a very I'm pretty hardcore. I was very hardcore with drugs. I was like all in. I didn't fiddle around with it. It wasn't just like 1 or 2 hits of ecstasy. It was like 4 or 5, It was like, I'm going to go as hard as I can. I'm not a pansy with this type of shit. So when for me, the idea of 10 days, like just really hardcore meditation, I was like, I bet there's something in there that will really transform me. And I was right. It's been, the first one I went to was in 2006 2015 or 2016 in the wintertime, over Christmas, actually. So I skipped over the Christmas holiday. And, since then, for a few years, I went twice a year. And it's absolutely been transformative. You're very familiar with recovery, but addiction is all about our reaction to shit. Like we need something, and then, this type of meditation technique that teaches you not to react in the most strictest form as possible. Like you just sit there. You can't even react to your pain that you're having in your leg, So it was like, wow, this is very intense training. And I like it. It's hard, but I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I follow, I'm a Buddhist in the Theravadan tradition.
Got it. Yeah.
I meditate every day anyway. So it seems pretty intuitive. Like, I need to go on a 10.
Yeah. Right.
But
it just was like, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know just from, sitting daily, even for 30 minutes here, 20 minutes there, that those 30 minutes can be so intensive that 10 days has to be just very transformative.
It is. It cracks you open. Yeah,
I'll bet. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also like, I'm a little like.
Well, I know. I can't wait for you to go, and when you do, let me know how what your experience is, because it's. I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. That's why I do it regularly, and why it's part of a very, very important part of my spiritual practice. It's not for everyone, for sure. There are some people that go there and they leave.
Yeah, no, I've heard of people cracking in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
Past day 2.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not for everyone. But what is? I don't think it's particularly designed for everybody.
Yeah.
So I have a question, because this is something that I struggle with, and I know other people struggle with sometimes. Your confidence levels, like when you were first getting into, first in recovery, like, you hit that pink cloud when you're first, hitting that first year, you're kind of on that pink cloud still. And then things kind of start to dive down. And for me, at least, I don't know, I'm approaching my second year in recovery. It's like, as I'm approaching the second year, things have just kind of gotten a little dark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you experienced that. It seems I've heard that from a lot of other people that that generally happens, and so I'm working through it. Hence the meditation and trying to apply the things that I can to kind of control that. But things. I don't know. Maybe it's a patience issue.
Yeah.
I think that might be.
Well, like this is something I teach my clients too, and this is kind of like why I harp on like mainstream law of attraction and mainstream spiritual teachings is that it talks so much about like, oh, you just think positive. You got to, get into that blissful state. You got to, focus on the good stuff. And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, that's not real life.
Yeah.
And for me, what I've learned is that like confidence, and I call it divine confidence, and I define divine confidence as having an unshakable faith in knowing who you are and what you're here to do in this moment, regardless of what's going on in the world outside of you. Like no matter how much money you have in your bank account, no matter how shitty your boyfriend or your girlfriend is treating you, whatever, like all that stuff, you can still be grounded in with an unshakable faith in knowing who you are and what you're here to do, even if your life on the outside looks like shit. And for me, that's what it is that even in the moments of darkness or pain or suffering, that I know I'm on my path, and it like my outside world doesn't need to reflect that. Like I know that the stuff that's coming up for me right now, the pain, the suffering, this is all purposeful. It's for me. It's happening for me right now. And there's something really, really, really good. There's some wisdom. There's some truth. There's some gold here that's going to present itself. And the key to overcome that is to like really just let go of trying to change it in the first place. There's nothing wrong with the darkness.
Right.
Yeah.
It's accepting things as they are in the current moment.
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's where another thing that I personally struggle with is like, especially, like I said, I follow, I consider myself a Buddhist. So, there's this whole thing of non-attachment and accepting the present moment. But then, I get into this whole thing in my head where I'm like, especially in meditation, I'm like, what's the difference between setting goals and trying to change things? Like, if I was truly accepting of things the way they are, like, I shouldn't even need to set goals for myself, because I should just be happy in the moment. But then you're just stuck in this rut of life, doing the same thing and not following the path that you want. So there's this like weird dichotomy of trying to further yourself and improve your life and live the life that you want to live and you deserve, and still not trying to cling to that.
Yeah.
It's like doing the work, but letting go of the outcome, which can be difficult.
Totally. I know exactly what you're talking about, because I contemplated this a lot, especially during these Vipassana retreats, because every day you have a discourse. You actually get, there's a recording that you listen to. They teach Buddhist principles and such. And, it's like, okay, so then how do I create the things that I actually want if I'm supposed to be unattached and just be happy with where I am? And what feels right for me, Justin, is that I really do believe that in each moment that that we're always being called into our greater good. There's always, like our higher self, higher good that we're being called into. So for example, like if I'm fighting with my ex-boyfriend, this happened to me a lot when I was dating, is that I'm unhappy with him, right? And in that moment, I'm like, okay, what I'm being called to right now is to practice unconditional love. So even that in itself is stepping into something that's greater than where you're at right now. Right. For me, like, I feel like in every moment we're being called into something.
Yeah.
So it is a balance between that and then being totally okay with where you are. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be a struggle at times.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's good to, and I'm glad we discussed this, because it's something that I think about a lot. And, I wanted to ask you about, because I just wanted to get I'm trying to get a general consensus from people if this is kind of the norm, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. I
think that's what we do on this journey, is like we contemplate,
right,
our human ego desires versus, our whatever nibbana, whatever you want to call it, and just acceptance of where we are versus growth. I think it's both. I think it's all of it. I don't think we're meant to be here and be stagnant and not move and grow.
Right.
I think, one of the things that I do whenever I have like spiritual questions like this that I can't figure out, I try to look for the, I try to look for the answers in nature. Like, what does nature do naturally? Like, we don't tell nature to do its thing. Like you plant a seed and it grows, turns into a tree, right? So I feel like, we do the same things. We are meant to grow, but then we're also meant to die as well. So
the tree.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel in many ways that, setting intentions doesn't have to be goals, but they can be intentions. My intention to practice unconditional love, my intention to be more peaceful with my family, which has been a huge theme for me in my life, and healing all that family trauma. That's been like the hardest work. Like, healing that.
How did you even begin to do that?
That it began with that intention of like, I want to, first of all, when you're on this journey, like, you're always contemplating what unconditional love means. At least I am. Like, what does that actually mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And so, as a spiritual teacher and a leader to many people outside of my family, I realized, like, if I can't bring love into my family, then who am I to call myself a leader? I was like, this is my school. My family is my school of where I practice all these things, where it's the hardest. And so I just started setting that intention. And you know what? Actually, prayer. I started praying a lot, asking God to show me how to bring more love into this, because I can't figure it out. I can't do it by myself. And my family is shitty.
Yeah, the reason I laughed was just you made me think of this Ram Dass quote. He said, "If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, my dad died a couple years ago, and he had a gambling addiction.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
And thanks. But he left us with over $250,000 in debt. And
boy.
at that time, boy, I mean, it was fucking hard. It was toxic in my family. Everyone hated my dad. Everyone hated my mom. Everyone hated my brothers. Everyone hated each other. And I was right in the middle of that, trying to like fix things and make everything work. And I realized, man, I'm part of this codependency once again. And I was like, I gotta stop. I gotta get out of this. And so I actually purchased a one-way ticket to Seoul, Korea. And I was going to leave all of it. Like this is August 2018, and my ticket was for August 30th. And it was like this big deal. I started doing this countdown on social media, and people were like, "Whoa!" And I was ready to go. And 8 days before my departure, my father died, and I found him dead in his bed.
Oh, shit.
8 days before my departure, and it was the most peaceful passing ever. I found him dead. He had his hand on like his pillow, and he had his mouth open. I thought he was sleeping, but he was dead. And there was no doctors, no hospitals, no ambulance, nothing.
Right.
How else? Like, just go to sleep and then move. It's like the most peaceful way one could ever wish for, you know?
Right. I think
my dad passed away.
I think it's the way everybody wants to go, right? Like, nobody wants to die in like a tractor accident or
or COVID or so many other ways.
Right.
You know, like my dad.
It's like absolutely the best way you can go.
Absolutely, like my dad did it right. My dad was like, I was so like, oh my God, he did it right. In passing, it was so peaceful. It was so beautiful. He blessed us. In life, he was a pain in the ass, pain in the motherfucking ass. I mean, we didn't know shit about our finances, the house. You know, as soon as he died, 5 of us in our family went through thousands and thousands of documents, trying to paint a picture of what was going on with the finances. We found a bankruptcy. We found forged signatures. We found fraud.
Oh,
I mean, my dad forged my mother's signature on the deeds of the house. I mean, it was a shit show, right? And I feel so strongly, because this was the energy that we were living in before he passed away. I feel so strongly. He was like, okay, I'm going to leave now, and I'm going to give you guys this chance to heal this and work on it. And I'm done. I'm out. He seriously blessed us. And so 8 days before my departure going to Korea, clearly that got canceled. And I've been here ever since then. You know, we had to hire a lawyer, you know, try to figure out all these things. And
I'm sure.
It's still like, it still hasn't been resolved. But there's been this incredible like healing that's been going on within our family. And my father is a direct part of it. Still, I feel his presence, and he's just like watching over us. And it sounds cheesy, but it's actually true. And I finally have this relationship with him that I've never, ever, ever had, ever in my entire life. And it happened after he died.
That's insane. That's fantastic, though. That's such an interesting story. Well, so he forged your mom's fucking name on the deed to that.
Oh yeah.
Your dad was scandalous as fuck.
My dad was scandalous, man. He was scandalous, and we were afraid of this. We were afraid of what would happen if he just died. You know, what would happen to the loans and the money. Well, I mean, it happened. It went straight to my mom. My mom is 73 years old, you know, like who takes care of her? I take care of her. So it's like, you know, it's my responsibility. And here's the thing about family, which has been really part of this spiritual journey and spiritual healing, is that, you know, for a lot of people, I think it'd have been easier to ignore. Like, okay, that's my mom's loan now. It's my mom's shit. It doesn't have anything to do with me. And I could, what I've done for most of my life is try to ignore this. But I realized that I have to heal this. And in order for me to heal this, I got to take ownership. I have to do something that nobody in my family has ever been willing to do, which is to take full responsibility.
Right.
Nobody. Oh, this shit pisses me off now that I think about it, because my dad didn't want to take responsibility. My brothers didn't want to take responsibility. My mom, nobody wanted to take any responsibility for anything, not for their own feelings, not for what they did to each other. Nobody. I realized that if I'm going to heal this, I have to break this generational pattern of not taking ownership. And what that meant for me was like, it was hard, Justin. I mean, like, take ownership of it all. That means like taking ownership of cleaning up this financial mess too. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if I really want to clean this up, if I really want to heal this and mend it, not just for myself, but for my entire family, then I have to be willing to do that. That's the hardest. Like, even there's some drugs that I got over that was easier to get over than getting over this.
I was going to ask, do you think that like, say taking ownership and taking the full responsibility, do you feel that that's a skill that you learn like in recovery? Because I think that's so crucial to recovery in itself, is just taking the responsibility of where you've been, what you've done, and rectifying that situation. Because I think until you're able to acknowledge it, you can't overcome it. You know what I mean? So you have to be, you have to take on that full responsibility of okay, I've done this and I fucked this up, but now I've got to start the process of rebuilding and repairing. And so you have to, and I don't know about you, but when I was, just going into recovery, like nobody had my back to begin with, and it was like, it's just like, all right, this is all on me and I got to do this shit on my own now.
Yes. Yeah. I learned it through, because my recovery happened so long ago. And so for me, this is just like being part of the spiritual path and taking my spiritual studies like seriously. It's not something that I just use to manifest something cool, but it's actually something that feels uncomfortable, that's very dark, like you were just talking about. This is dark. This dark stuff, going into family history and trying to figure out why everyone hates each other, and also accepting that my family, none of them will probably ever talk to each other again, except for me, and being like the only person willing to understand and to like heal and to do it on your own. It's hard.
It's a lot of responsibility too.
God bless me, damn it.
It's a lot of responsibility being the go-between for like a large group of people that just hate each other.
Yeah, it's not easy. But then that's the practice. That's the practice of like, it's not. It's like, I know I can't change them, so God, just show me what to do. Just show me what's next. And do you know what else? Okay, so check this out. This is kind of full circle. I mean, if we ever do another podcast, I'll tell you the story of what I found out about my dad, which is crazy. Because one of the things that I had to do was to figure out why he got addicted. I'm going to save that story for another day. But just to come full circle, when I got this cancellation notice from the Vipassana, just it was like 2 Wednesdays ago, I was like, okay, this is not happening, but I know something really, really cool is going to happen in the next 10 days that wouldn't have happened had I not been here. And so I was just in a very kind of expectant mode. And what happened was that because I had taken everything off my plate, I had nothing on my time, and which gave me the time and space to spend time with my mother. Now, mind you, my mother and I have hated each other since I think she was like already hating me as I was being like pushed out of her womb. Like we've always had conflict. Right. And this past week, we actually had, for the first time in my entire life, were able to have a heart-to-heart conversation. This has never happened.
Oh, wow.
And I can't even like, this type of thing is so awkward, like you would probably understand, like with family members that you've been in conflict with, to even think about, oh, I just want to be able to spend time with, I don't want to spend time with my mom. I never, like, that's the thing. I don't want to spend time with my family because I don't like them, you know? So for us to have this moment where we're able to connect and have this conversation, that's beyond me. That's not my ego. That's like love. That's unconditional love. That's God. That's spirit, whatever you want to call it, moving through me and my mother at the same time. And it's probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life. And it was like, it just happened like a few days ago.
Yeah, it's got to be super cathartic after a lifetime of that never happening.
Justin, it's very, very, very cathartic. And do you know what I'm experiencing now is this very, this kind of sense of peace and groundedness that I've never had in my entire life. I like to make shit happen. I like to have things. I'm always kind of in that energy of what's next? What do I gotta do? What do I do to create this and blah, 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 blah. But for the first time, I don't even feel that right now. I feel kind of like what you talked about, like 20 minutes ago, about just being in the moment and being okay with where I am. I feel that real deep inner sense of peace right now. And I know it's because of this exchange that I've had with my mom. That's
awesome. That's so fucking good. That's fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
It's such a good feeling to, finally just be kind of like, and as you know, through your meditation, I'm sure that this too will pass, and things
it already did.
Things are going to go to shit again, and then they're going to get good again, and then they're going to go to shit again, and then that's the ebb and flow of life.
You're so right. Yeah, just the other day we got another fighting match, and it was stupid, but then we got over it again. So yeah, you're so right, and at the same time, I feel like we've taken a corner, my mom and I, and those childhood wounds with your family, they run deep, man.
Oh, they're the deepest. They're the deepest. They're where all the rest of your fucked up shit comes from.
God, it's so nasty. So nasty.
I mean, literally, that's where all the rest of your trauma probably stems from, is those initial family wounds,
Yep. And not just ours, but our parents' wounds.
Just generational. I mean, that shit's passed down.
Oh my God. For real.
Yeah.
Totally passed down.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that with my family. Just passed down trauma,
100%.
Yeah. Nobody knew how to be a parent because nobody ever knew how to be a parent. So it's like you're just passing down this, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what, because I took after my dad died, I was like, what's going on here? My dad was a functioning alcoholic. Okay. He had a gambling addiction. My brothers also have a drinking addiction. One of my brothers had a horrible drug addiction as well. He was in and out of jail. I went to jail, clearly, and my niece also went to prison for a very serious drug crime, which was almost similar to mine, but just it was bigger. She capped it, man. She and she's like my niece, and I was like, there's something going on here generationally,
right?
Because I never brought that stuff to her. My brothers never brought that stuff to me. Right. I was like, what is it that we're repeating again and again? And wow, I uncovered some stuff about my dad that just blew me away. It just goes to show that we don't think in a silo. We don't live life in a silo. We're all like collectively just melded into each other with our consciousness and our minds, and it's wild.
Yeah, it's weird how, without even being direct, you, like you said, you didn't have any direct influence on your niece, but for her to have almost a similar outcome, it's like, there's some weird trauma going on here, some underlying shit.
Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, it's what, it's
right.
And that's how it manifests itself.
Exactly. Yeah. Because when the trauma isn't healed, and when it's not talked about and it's kept a secret, it gets passed on to generationally.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot.
I know. I know.
Yeah. God, now I'm going to be thinking about that next time I do a meditation.
Oh.
I'm glad I don't have any kids, so I can't pass on any trauma.
That's why I'm like, I'm not having kids either. I'm like, I would be, I would be just
the shit
like,
stops here, at least with me.
I know, right? Like, if I had a daughter like me, I would just quit. I would just quit.
I couldn't afford to have a child like I was. Right? No, I can't bond you out.
Right? Man.
So where can people find you at?
They can find me, my website is catkim.com. So KATKIM.com. You can find me on Instagram, Cat Kim Official. I'm on Facebook, Cat Kim. I have a Facebook group called the Confident Leadership Community, where I offer just coaching, connection, that type of thing for people who feel really stuck. But they know in their bones they're being called to do more in their life. I'm really good at helping people figure out what that it is. But I really primarily work best with nonconformists, misfits, people who never really fit into society.
Yeah, I think I saw you mention the term. Maybe it was on your website. I think it was spiritual nonconformist.
Yeah,
Like touch on that a little bit. What your
spiritual nonconformist is really someone who refuses to be taken hostage by the cultural conditioning of the day, who's very aware of what's going on in the world and just it doesn't feel like they fit in anywhere, yet at the same time they don't waver on their conviction for love and justice. People who are here to disrupt the status quo.
Right.
For
that sounds like me.
Yeah. And on my website too, I think I label it as like, and on top of that, you are a badass motherfucker.
Oh, that's definitely me.
Yeah.
And it's you too.
Yeah.
And it's everybody listening to this, because I think everybody has the potential to be a badass motherfucker. I
totally agree. Yeah.
I think they just need to tap into that. Maybe you can help them with that.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here for anyone who wants to tap into that 100%.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. I really had a good time talking to you. We'll have to do this again, because we're definitely going to have to do this again, because I've got to hear the story about your dad. So.
Oh my God.
We'll save that for part 2.
Yeah, part 2. That sounds good.
Just fingers crossed that we'll both be able to go on our Vipassana retreats very soon.
Oh my God. Yes. I can't. I mean, seriously, when you go, let me know, because I want to know how it went.
For sure. I will. I definitely will. Yeah. I'm excited to see how it goes as well.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Justin.
And thanks to you, Cat Kim, for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it, and I'm terribly sorry that it took so long to release this episode. If you'd like to get in touch with Cat Kim, she can be found at catkim.com. That's KATKIM.com. She can be found on Facebook at Cat Kim Official, and she can also be found on Instagram at the same tag, Cat Kim Official. Again, this has been Dharma Junkie, and look out for more episodes soon. Namaste. You earned it.
Chaos is beautiful.